7-3-24. 7-3-24. Can you imagine?
I'm having a hard time actually. I mean, it's time is just going, and I'm not trying to keep track of it anymore because it's kind of throwing me for a loop, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean 7-3-24 EP11 season 5 eavesdrop. Welcome to listeners listening live, listening replay. We truly appreciate you here. My name is Wulwyn Port and
I am Tracy Phillips.
Tracy. But no, tomorrow's Independence Day.
I know, another one. Yeah. How
Another
you
one.
feeling? What does Independence Day mean to you?
Independence. You- gosh, you just put a gun to my head. Didn't even think that.
Sorry. I mean, come on, Wulwyn. How long have you been doing this?
I know,
I
and then
just go right in.
we call it in the moment, right?
Yeah,
And
that's
I
right.
didn't even know that it was in the moment on me. So I'm gonna go with just the word independence, right? Uh, I think it as sovereignty, meaning doing you have as much freedom until it goes into the next person's space, right? Freedom, you're independent. You can do whatever you want to do, but do it to the extent where it's not infringing on the next person, right? So Independence Day thing, America defines their independence. I know we're a sovereign nation, uh, but I can't help to my DNA just can't help but to think about the Native Americans who were here, and they were independent, but then somebody comes and says, "I found this land." Christopher Columbus finds it and say, "Nah, you didn't find it. You found it for your people, right? For your." So it's these Martian, these movies. Have you seen Full Moon, Blood Moon? I think
Hmm.
it's the sovereign land has a huge population, and they're looking for a new place because the air, the food, they had this high scarcity in everything. So they send these ships out, and the ships come in and see this land and say, this land is new, so we're gonna do this. But because they have power, they could say, we have found a new land for our people. And then all these ships came over, and then the people who were there you know what happened, annihilated, etc. So independence, I understand the concept, I understand it, and yeah, I love America, right? I love America, a melting pot for white, black, in between, every shade, every nationality. Let me just say. So it's independence. I appreciate it, but I always have that little piece in the back there about those. You?
Yeah, I feel like it's such a loaded question, isn't it?
You
As
did.
you,
See?
yeah.
See? See?
There's so many levels for me. Honestly, I think we spend a lot of time looking back, and what I've really been finding lately is asking people presently, right? Like we look at what it was or what it was set up to be, but what is it now? First of
Mm,
all, that's a thought that I have. I think a lot of people are asking that question in a lot of ways. How free do I really feel?
mm,
In
mm,
reality, I feel independence is a choice.
mm.
I think comes down to choice, which we've been talking about a lot. We talked about last time. We talked about the time before last time.
I'm telling you.
Choices. You think of people who've been incarcerated, rightfully, wrongfully, and their choice was to say, even though I've been placed somewhere against my will,
Hmm.
um, somehow I'm going to retain my moment to moment choices. Right? I'm going to be sovereign in the sense that I get to choose how I'm going to respond
Mm,
in any given situation, for under any given circumstance. And that's where I think, the challenge really is, and kind of
mm,
where the rubber's meeting the road right now in the
mm,
world is, are we going to keep playing victim to the circumstance? Are we going to keep saying, oh, I can't show up because, the world is doing this. I can't feel like I'm getting a lot of that. I'm talking to clients and they're saying, oh yeah, so many of my clients are
mhm,
saying, I got to pull back financially because of the economy. It's like,
mm,
just this reactive kind of way. And I'm not saying there isn't legitimacy, but the legitimacy is only there in so much as we give it power,
mm,
right? Like, this is power over me. Like, I'm going to make choices because of what I'm being told about the economy, or I'm
mm,
going to be making choices based on what other people are telling me is the reality. And so I think that there's a lot there, and that's just an example. But so where are we realizing that we're making choices based on what's exterior as
mm,
opposed to what we truly want to be doing, or how we truly want to be being, right? Is
mm,
someone else's bad behavior going to influence me to be, to show and exhibit bad behavior too? I'll
yeah.
say, well, you started it, or you were mean to me first, and so like, that's a reactive. That's like giving someone else the power over our
Mm,
own choice of action and behavior,
gotcha.
right? And so freedom, like, we love the concept. We love the concept, but in
Yeah.
reality,
Mhm. Go ahead. Go
the
ahead.
choice is always there to consider ourselves free or not.
Mm,
I've made reference many times in the last month to the movie Life is Beautiful, which I think I mentioned maybe even last time you and I were talking about, you know, Jewish people who were incarcerated in
mm,
a concentration camp,
mhm,
Auschwitz, or which one it was, but and how the choice of one of the main characters, that he chose to continue to make the choices, to be free in his choices,
mm,
regardless of what was being done to him, um, against his will.
mm,
And so we stay. I mean, at the end of the day, nobody can take away your choice. And people can say, "Oh no,
mm,
that's not true. My choice is to be able to be free, and somebody is holding me down." That's not true. I'm not talking about any one choice. I mean,
mm,
what is your response to that? What do
mm,
you choose to do with that, right, circumstance? And in any second, we always have the power of how we're going to choose to respond. And
mm,
so, what is our own version of freedom? And I feel like where we are challenged is where the answers to that question lie.
Mhm.
Where
Mm,
are we telling ourselves stories where it feels icky in our lives? It's like, oh, I don't feel like I have freedom, or I don't feel like, I have choice.
mm,
All right. Those are the areas we need to look within ourselves and say, why am I choosing to give it that interpretation?
mm,
Right? Why am I choosing to think that freedom is a thing that I have to be given, or is something that my government has to set up in order for me to have it?
mm,
Or we've been really living in that space for a very, very long time. And
mm,
I think it's being rattled and shaken. And, even, the idea of like, don't trespass on people. I mean, half the time, I maybe the way they handled it, I don't think that Columbus or, whoever the people that came before him and, said claimed this land for our country. I don't think they were doing, like, again, to your point, they were doing it for their people. We do the same thing to planet Earth all the time. Right? Here these little organisms are living and we come and just eradicate stuff because that's cooties and those are bacteria and we don't like them and so we're going to kill them and we have no
mhm,
idea
mhm,
what purpose they were created for because we
mhm.
just don't give credence to the fact that they have purpose. So I think,
Right.
yes, when you look at the Native Americans, like, oh, they have no purpose, they're in the way, we'll just eradicate them. Yeah, yeah, yeah. We can say a lot about that.
Mm,
But I
mhm,
don't think the initial, like, oh, hey, here's land that we want to claim. I don't think that that was under bad, like, for bad reasons.
mm,
It's just what we do with that from that point forward, our
mm.
behavior, right? There's choice and then there's behavior. Um, and and so there's two separate things I think going on there. Is that when we
Yeah.
interpret, did people have a right to say that was their land? I mean, does it belong to anybody in particular? Yeah, I don't know. That could be a
No,
debate. But
correct.
was their behavior kind and, the right thing? I think we could probably agree upon a lot of things,
Mm, mhm,
similarly when we look at the behavior part. And what we always, I try to subscribe to do with people,
mhm,
I mean, starting with my child, raising
mhm,
her to make a distinction between herself and her identity and how I feel about her and her
mhm,
behavior,
mm,
right? You are a
mm.
good person. Right now your behavior is not so great in
Correct.
my in my opinion, in my
Mhm.
experience,
Yeah.
but I'm also open to a different interpretation if you'd like to share that, so it's like this is my perception of things.
Mm,
What's yours? Right? Where are you
mm,
coming from? And how can we maybe meet in the middle? If your intentions are good, but your behavior is kind of working against that. Because again, I'm here to help shepherd her along so that she learns how to be in the world. But
mm,
I think it is that we need to make these distinctions, but we need to take ultimate responsibility ourselves for our own experiences, not continue to point fingers outside and say, I am acting this way because it's somebody else's,
mm,
the reason is outside of myself.
mm.
Sovereignty is taking accountability for our choices.
I agree. So, whew, a lot of jumping off points I got here. Uh, so it takes a free mind. It takes a mature mind. It takes a set mind, and I could just say it takes a mindset, right? Joining all those things together. That I am free. That I I am going to do. I'm going to control. I am going to set myself in the best possible position, right, in order for me to succeed. I agree with that completely. However, then you place that mind in an ecosystem that's that has barriers around it.
Boundaries. Yeah, it has
Um,
boundaries.
boundaries, but barriers also, right? It has barriers, and intentionally use that word because it's something that stops, right? A boundary I can exceed it, and do it, but a hard barrier. And I'm coming from independence and having a person. I don't want that person to feel victimized. Don't point and say that. But mind you, this person has a free mind. Person is not feeling victimized. They agree that they are sovereign. They can do what they want to do, but within a system that fist right, and just what you said, the behavior of the person in power, the behavior of because when I look back, you said Columbus did is not, and I don't know why we're sticking on this, but I think that's what in the moment is. We will stay on it until we go away from it. Columbus comes and he says, yes, for the people, the behavior, it's not intent. The intent is not wrong. And I can even go to the shores of Africa where you had the town, the individuals. We talked about this a show or two. You had the king, the African king, taking his same African brothers and sisters, prisoners, and sending them as slaves, right? Making them as slaves. So it's not about color, it's human behavior, right? When we're built, and to even say this, it's I don't even want to say it, but I have to say it. Some are built to conquer. Some their mindset is I want to be over. I want to be over something. The ego there, the selfishness. It's to be over. And as much as someone wants to be independent and have a free mind and a set mind in that particular system, there's there are a lot of barriers, a lot of boundaries with consequences, including death. And again, it's not about white or black, it's human nature across. You go to Europe, you will find it. You go to every continent, you will find this. And you can't call it color, you call it humans. You call it humans. So when we find ourselves in this, and then as I'm saying this, then you find somebody who has this freeing mindset that takes a bunch of people. Harriet Tubman, let's just this one name that comes. This mindset that says, I don't care what you're saying. I am gonna rebel. And now that's not being rebellious. That's rebellious is from the person's mindset who's in power to say you're rebelling, stay in your place.
Right.
No,
Meaning
this person is saying, I'm I'm free and I'm going to exact, I'm gonna to act free. So in that sense, the free mind really based on the tolerances, they can go to a level and give a vision to others and say, yo, let's be free. What's happening in Kenya right now? Who I don't know if you saw that. They're burning the past a budget, giving monies to the politicians, etc. And Tracy, I tell you, these people, they they got free in a way. They got in the streets, and I don't agree with it, but they burned down every single person who agreed to the budget. They went to their homes, burned them down. They took the plane that the president. They burned the plane. I mean, they were tired with the suppression and the oppression, right, from the government. And you're seeing this in peace. But the only thing I'm saying to myself is, Lord, what happens when the new leader comes in? Are they going to be for the people, by the people, with the people, or after they've tasted the prime rib, after they've tasted the filet mignon and saying, "This is mine," and tasted the best drinks, are they gonna hoard it for themselves? So independence. Hey, eavesdroppers. This conversation is going. I see a couple of you, Jojo. I see you on here. Carl, I see you on here. Stop being. Don't be quiet. Please chime in. What does independence means? Tracy just took the gun, shot into my head. Hey, tell me what independence is. And I mean, we just started at 100. So please chime in with your comments. Really appreciate that, Tracy.
no
Back to
guns.
you.
I
I
asked the
no, no,
question.
no.
You had the choice
Come
whether you
on,
answered it or not.
come on, come. No, you know
Just to
what
be
I
clear.
mean. You
Well,
know what I mean. It's
I know what you mean, but I think also being clear is important because we use these analogies all the time, and that's exactly what we're
yeah,
talking about. is that we always have free choice. We can say, I will pass. I'm not going to answer that question. So I love what you said. And I believe that, one of the things that we do have this ability, because again, we are in the same time frame as we were during the great, the French Revolution. There's a great revolutionary time. We are in that same time now. Like if you look at patterns in history and what leads to what, is a lot of the same historical decisions that had impact in similar ways.
Mm,
The last time we were in this time period was then, when there were just immense amounts of revolution going on around the world.
mm,
Not just in France, or Europe in general, but we have a choice now to do it differently. And we want to, resist. What we resist persists. So resistance, fight, creates more fight, right?
mm, mm,
Greed creates more greed.
mm,
I mean, if you put an energy of something out there, then it will sow the seeds of that energy. And so, to answer your question, we're fighting for what exactly? We're fighting them. If we make it about them, then we're just going to end up, again, we get in power and then we get greedy, right?
mhm,
because
mhm,
because it's not really a fight against anybody or any particular, you know, platform that's trying to lord over. That's not what we're fighting against. And we need to be clear about that.
mhm,
What we are, and it's not even against, it's for. What are we choosing to make our decisions to support? We need to start changing our language too. Fight creates more fight. If I put out energy that is aligned with fight, I'm going to get more of the same back, right? It's
mm,
the boomerang effect.
mhm,
And so, yes, let's be clear. We want change, but how do we want it? Because the energy in which we place that desire is what sows the seeds of what we get next, individually and collectively.
mm,
So I prefer language personally to, this is not for me,
mhm,
right? I choose a different way. I'm practicing my sovereignty, in my choice, and also in where I focus my energy. It's a vote. What we
mhm,
vote for collectively is what gains power. And so to take that at the nth degree, I mean, I've been saying this a lot with clients recently, is thoughts become things. If you're thinking about all the how awfuls, you're watching the news and you're seeing all these horrible
mm,
things in the world. I'm not saying don't be aware, but if you don't have a mastery over your own thoughts,
mm,
I would suggest you not watch the news, because what's going to happen is you're going to have this knee jerk reaction to be angry, to be
mhm,
sad, and guess what? That energy is going to go back out into the world. And you're going to send anger energy out and sadness energy out and all of this out. And I'm not saying don't process your feelings. That's different.
mm,
If you're going and doing the inner work and working through your emotions, what should happen is you are able to release them
mm,
internally, not projectively, right? If we're reacting to an outside thing, we're throwing energy back to the outside. If we're
correct.
responding to an inner thing, we're working with that within ourselves, right? And we
Mm,
we, we can keep working. That is within us. And what we're
yeah.
trying to do is birth something different into the world,
Mm,
ideally,
mm,
right? So that we have
mm,
that experience and other people have that experience, that different experience, right?
mm,
But a lot of people don't know how to do that.
mm,
Most people don't know how to do that because it's not something that's been cultivated in our societies, right? And so I believe that really understanding that it starts with language. I mean, I've said this
mm,
many times throughout my life, my career. Language holds a resonance. It
mm,
holds energy. And so even if we're joking, if we use certain language that has certain meaning, it will
mm,
reverberate that energy back out into the world.
mm,
It's just a
mm,
fact,
mm,
right? And so really watching the meaning we give things, but then what escapes from our mouths or from
mm,
our being, right? Because language isn't just verbal,
mm,
right? We
mm,
communicate in a lot of ways. But to think about it from it, we are energy bodies, right? Quantum
mhm,
physics, Einstein what he talked about ad nauseum, right? Do we really understand what that meant, right? What that means?
Mm.
And really being in charge of our charge. Like if we think energy is a charge, like you get an electric charge if you stick your finger in
Mhm.
an electric socket,
Yep.
right? To be in charge of our charge, to be in charge of our energy, to really be accountable to how we work with that energy. That is where we start. And if we're way
Mm.
out here trying to blame other people for our
Mm-mm.
circumstances, trying to, we are
Mm-mm.
so far from center, and that's why we're experiencing what we're experiencing.
Mm.
I always tell you, you know if you're close to center because you'll feel it, you'll experience it. You'll have these synchronicities in life that no matter, even if you're going through a challenge, there's something there to support you. Challenge, support, challenge, support. We'll know from our experience whether we're in center.
Mm.
Because no matter how challenging it gets, no matter what we're processing or going through, we will have support there, sometimes in ways that surprise us, that
Mm.
shock us,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
Okay. And so again, that is where I am these days. Is really like how can I take ultimate accountability of my not only my experience, but what I'm putting out into the world.
Mm.
Right.
Mhm.
So it's more than just what I want to manifest for myself or what I want to create for myself. It's what do I want to create for myself and the world? Because it starts with how I work with my energy.
Mm. You just what you were saying on there, there's a Bible verse that goes, "Life and death are in the power of the tongue." And then I'm gonna paraphrase, "Choose wisely," because if I say to myself, I'm gonna die," and I keep saying, "I'm gonna die, I'm gonna die, I'm gonna die," you will die. I mean,
I'm going to
everybody's gonna
anyway, but probably
die.
speak to it later.
Correct. Yeah, but no, but you see, death isn't just the eye closing and the body dying. Death is so many dimensions of death. You can die in your mind and still be standing up here going. So be careful with your words, and speaking life. I think another biblical example is you reap what you sow.
Yeah.
So whatever you put out, right, you're gonna get it. Whatever you do, and there's a word I came across. I was studying the other day, and I got it, and it's equanimity, right?
Mhm.
And when I saw that word, just the way it flowed, I was like, I love it, I love it, and I went and defined it. And I saw the definition. It was like, just keeping consistent, no matter good news, bad news, being content, and
Mm.
not content in the word in means of being complacent.
All right, all right. Yeah, no, good
It's
distinction.
correct. It's been content with, and I think I said this a while ago. I'm in Liberia. The generator goes off, the power goes off, from the company, the power company, and the solar goes off. So
Mm,
all two of my backups are out, and there's no other backup. And it's hot. It's summer. It's running by maybe 90 some degrees consistently in a day, and it takes maybe up to 3 a.m. to cool,
mm,
like what we've been experiencing here,
yeah.
in Carolina and a couple on the eastern coast. But here's the thing: I said to myself, I can get on a plane, and I'm telling you, sweats pouring down my neck on the pillow. Oof. I'm like, oh, I can't stand this. I get a towel and I put it there, and I go, I can get on the plane now and go back to America and be in the AC. And the Holy Spirit just said, really, I told you to come here. Are you really gonna run away because of heat? Whereas there are some people who don't even have this level of comfort, and they aren't even crying. And I go, oh, all right, yeah, I get it. And then I became content in the
Mm,
sense that I know I have these different sources of power. Life has hit me in this particular moment, in this speck of time where I don't have it. So do I cry about it? No, I'm going to take it. So every single time those situations happen where, the shifts give you, uh, lemons or limes, right? Where we say, "Oh, make lemonade when you get the lime." It's when those shifts occur, stay in the center, and you were talking about it. Be in charge of your charge. Where and I tell you, Tracy, that equanimity, that being content, being centered when those things occurred, when I'm around other people and they go, oh, I'm like, hey, 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 calm down. And I I give these words that I just said about the situation, and they go, you know what? That's true. That's
Mm,
true. You're really not dying. So we have the power, right? And you know, it goes back to independence. We're going from a I think we're going to a real low level here. And when I say low, not in terms of of size and being low, but at the atomic level, our atomic level, our control. Because I think if most of us can control that, as I think as you were saying, we can bring change about. And as you were talking, and I was thinking about Martin Luther King, right? That the hate's coming to him, and all he's giving is, you know, I have a dream, I have a dream. And it
yeah.
seems stupid. It seems stupid. I slap you, you say, I love you. I slap you, I love you. I slap you, I love you. And come to find out the legacy now is, oh wow, that dude in that aspect was strong, right? It's
Oh yeah.
our strength
Oh,
in
yeah.
mind, our strength in the face huh, of the toughest that life brings to us. And I can define your toughest. I can define the Jews toughest. I can define the African toughest. I can define you know, but we all, as long as you're a human being, trust me, there's a tough you have come across toughness, you've come across barriers and boundaries that I can't. I, as a person, I will say, "Ha, I'm so happy for what I've been through. That thing you got, I don't want it." You know?
Mm.
So
Well, it's kind of like when people say, God, I can't imagine doing for a living what you do.
correct.
Listening to listening to people's stuff all the time, and I can't imagine. And I'm like, oh, but that's not at all, because I was designed for this work. I mean,
Correct.
if you
Correct.
choose wisely, you
Mm,
will align with your design, right? And whether it's the design of what you do for a living, whether it's the roles you play, or just even the challenges you go through in order to develop yourself in this lifetime, so the meaning we give things, I was thinking this when you were talking.
mm,
I thought of something that happened the other day. So you made reference to, um, to how hot it's been here in the Carolinas, and I know there's other parts of the eastern seaboard that's been experiencing the same thing. And I was out. I mean, before we recently got our rain. We
mm.
had been going 3 weeks without rain. It was getting to the point where I'm like scorched earth, kind of thing. And I had been out bucket watering some of
Oh,
our fig tree, and I mean, our yard is too big to have hoses on it all the time. Like, you really have
gotcha.
to, I mean, we're talking like a half an acre, where these things are, and I'm
Mm,
not going to run a line and water the entire property. So I was bucket watering, and it was hot as Hades that day. I mean,
mm.
even in the morning, like I was out at 7 a.m. and it was like tropics. Like, you've been here. And I'm like, wow. And so it was interesting because I'm carrying these, big buckets of water, and in the middle of, I don't know, one of my hauls,
Hmm.
it occurred to me, I go and do saunas, and like, you pay money to go to these spas and do these saunas. Why do we do a sauna? We do it to detox,
Yeah.
right? So we pay money to go into the heat, to sweat our derrieres off, right? Like, to just like be pools of sweat. We pay money for this. And I'm like, I'm getting it for free right now.
Yeah.
And then it became a whole different experience.
Mm,
I'm like, I'm working my muscles, I'm detoxing, I'm like
mm.
it was a whole different experience. Right? Before, it was just like, okay, I'm gonna get this done. I'm gonna get this done. I'm gonna get this done. Like, I have to carry all
Wow.
these buckets of water for the blueberries and the this and the that. Right. And then it was like, oh, I'm saving money. I'm getting the full detox. I'm drinking water.
Yes.
I'm processing stuff through. I'm
Wow.
outdoors. I'm I'm in the elements, this is, and I'm caring for my plants, which
Mm.
is a sense of nurturance, and
Mm.
so I just was kind of going through this mental list of, and I'm doing this, and I'm doing this, and I get this, and I get this. And by
Mm.
just doing this simple thing that the plants need, I get all of this benefit.
Wow. Wow.
And I get to see, I get to be strong, and I get to know it, I get to, it's the power of me.
Mm.
And okay,
Mm.
I'm exaggerating it, for the
Mm-mm.
sake of argument, but it that's what I'm talking about, is the meaning we give now shifts the experience we have with that experience,
Mhm. Mhm.
right? That
Mhm.
circumstance,
Yeah.
that choice. I
Mm.
chose to go take care, but I could have been like, oh my God, what I'm sacrificing to take care of these plants, and maybe I'll just let them fry, whatever. Like, it's too hot, and and then I go and spend money to go to the
The
sauna.
sauna. Yep. Yep.
I mean,
Yeah.
how often do we do that? Do we give something a meaning because we didn't choose it? Like, well, sometimes gifts come when we didn't think we chose it. Like, obviously, I chose it. If
Mm.
I go to do detox saunas, then it's something I want for myself. So I'm choosing it, but maybe that wasn't the time, right? Or whatever. Who cares?
Mm.
Like, where can we open ourselves up for sudden gifts that we weren't expecting?
Mm.
And how can we see it as a gift instead of a curse?
Mm.
Or an inconvenience, or lately, I don't know about y'all, but like lately my emotions haven't been coming conveniently. And and women my age could blame it on menopause, we could blame it on all sorts of things. I'm like, I'm needing to process through these emotions for
Mm.
whatever reason it's happening.
Mm.
Half the
Mm.
time my daughter just turns to me, she's like, you have no idea why you're feeling this right now, do you? I'm like, no, I don't. I'm just crying. I'm just crying, and she's just like, "You don't really know what this is about, do you?" I'm like, "No, just letting it happen.
Hey.
Just did my makeup, but oh well. Like, it's gonna just all come off. Like, I'm just kind of letting it be,
Yeah.
and it actually is very freeing. Going back to the concept of freedom,
Mhm.
it's very
Mhm.
freeing not to have this scheduled, like, but I just
Mm.
put on makeup because I'm gonna go out. Hey, look, if it's like, if I'm not looking like you want me to look, I'm sorry for you.
Oh, man. Oh,
Like,
man.
like I'm going through it. I don't even know why, so I can't even give you an excuse. Like,
Gotcha.
I'm a
Gotcha.
mess, and I'm embracing it.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
there's just, again,
Mm.
choice,
Wow.
choice.
You were as you were saying it, all I'm thinking about is, every time I go to Liberia and I return, my sister says, "Wow, your skin's glowing.
Hmm.
Your skin's glowing." I'm like, "Okay." And it's that heat, right? It's that detox maybe every other day that you're doing it. And I will go on a farm and work, and I tell you, when I'm driving back home and I look in the mirror, I mean, I feel the pores, the sweat just pushes the dirt out, the
Yeah,
just pushes it out. And here you are when you explain that, I went, wow, it's all about your perspective.
totally.
It's all about
Meaning.
perspective. And eavesdroppers, I'll tell you one thing, and this is just perspective for me. Every time I'm on a journey, be it a short, most times when it's a long one, I think I shared this with you. My dad had given me a hole to fill. It was a porch, so we had to fill dirt and then put concrete on top. And it was a 6 by I don't know what it was, and maybe 4 feet deep. And he told me to get it done, and I just started doing it and doing it and doing it and doing it. At the end, he came and said, at the end of the day, 8 hours later, he said, "Wow, I didn't intend for you to do it all in one day." I'm like,
Mm,
Okay, I thought you did." But long story short, what that taught me in eavesdroppers, I tell you, if you can put this in your preparations or in your mind when you're going through something long and arduous, you every every shovel that I dug and put in the wheelbarrow, every barrel load that I dumped, I said to myself, "It's filling, but I just can see it. It's filling."
mm,
So I love to fold clothes. we wash the clothes and we put it on the bed, and I love to put it on the bed, bam, 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 and I go, here comes the concept again. Every single one, every single item that I pick up and fold, that's one less to fold, and I just keep folding. And at the end, it's done, and I go, wow. So the perspective of looking, even in the plane, when I'm flying long distances, I look at the route and I see it taking one. Every single journey, it starts with one step, and just keep putting one step in front of the other. Before you know it, trust and believe, you would have done such a Herculean task. People will look and say, how did you do it? One step at a time, so I don't know where that came from, but I think it
I
was
love
it
it.
was it was for us to hear. Most of us are going through something huge. We have goals and plans, and don't look at break it up into pieces. You can't eat a whole pizza pie. You know why they put it in slices, right? So that you can take a slice and then go for the next slice.
Well, I just want to take the whole pizza.
I know, right? No, but it's so comforting to know that I'm going to the end of a goal, and that everything that I'm doing, there are 1,000 steps, and mistakes are allowed to be made in those 1,000 steps, that I can rewind, or I can readjust and say, I got 999 to go. I will do it this way. And if we can look at our journey in that way, where we can tweak it, and not say, I haven't reached yet, it's so far. If we can tweak it, put the cruise control on for a while, uh, stay in the far right lane, the slow lane, and jump in the far left, the fast lane, stay in the middle, whatever, tweak it, and before you know it, you're at your destination.
Yeah. What I love
Uh,
too is
mhm,
you're sharing that you're enjoying the journey. Like you're taking
mhm.
satisfaction in each step of the journey. Like
Yeah.
each thing you fold, each, noticing, right? And
Mhm,
and being
mhm.
aware that that step is an integral integral integral.
It's all right.
I can't talk today. Integral. Thank you. Part of the
Yeah.
process of getting to that fun. We've really been taught this destination concept.
Be conscious. Yep.
Yeah,
Mhm,
it is that I'm
mhm,
not happy until I succeed at the destination. I get the
mhm,
result that I'm going for.
mhm,
And then
mhm.
we miss life because
Yeah,
life is the in between, right?
yeah,
It's the benchmarks are birth and death, but life is everything in between birth and death. And so
correct.
it's this concept of taking that time, but also not taking the time just to notice, taking the time to actually receive. Because
Mm,
that's the one thing I was thinking as you were talking, just in myself, and as I've
mhm.
developed over throughout my life, is that feeling like I need to push, I need to make it happen, I need to, which is really ironic because I'm not designed to do things that way at all. So I wonder why life has been so hard in certain ways. I'm like, oh, huh, okay, I get it now. But I also wasn't really receiving the support
Mm,
that God was constantly, like, hey, have this
mm.
supportive. I'm like, wait, don't bother me. I'm busy making things happen.
Wow,
you know,
wow,
and
wow.
it's this idea of like we're supposed to co-create. Like I'm sending you all these wonderful things, even in the guise of challenges. To
Mm,
slow you down so that you take the time to notice the steps and what you're doing and being proud of yourself, even, or being like questioning yourself or whatever.
mm,
We're meant to like take ourselves along on the ride too. It's a partnership.
mm.
And when we're so like, if it is to be, it's up to me and blinders and this is going to happen in my way, and that's where we get into going back to how we started this conversation. That idea of like it has the power over, like we're always manipulating our energy. But it's weird because ironically, in our desire to manipulate the energy to our desire, to the way we want it to be, we actually give our power away. We
Mm,
lose power because we're putting more energy in than need be. God's like, hey, if you just go with the flow, like you could really enjoy this ride. Now, I'm not saying it's all going to be roses. You are going to hit some hurdles and stuff, but you got help, you got support, you got like, but you got to realize that, right? And
Wow.
so we have to exert more. We give power away in ways like it's not efficient. We end up spending more energy to get there than we needed to because we're just so in charge, large and in charge, and then we end up stepping over other people and hurting them. And like, it's just nothing really. Again, when we look at how it all measures out, it it's at a loss. We're actually taking
Mm,
a loss, even to gain.
mm. Oh
And
my
everything
goodness.
in our current paradigm is set up that way.
Mm,
One wins, one loses. It's always about gain loss. But
mm.
what if, to your point of, what was that word that you used, the in between?
Equanimity.
Equanimity. That
Hmm.
concept, the energy of equanimity is more of that balancing act. Can we seek equanimity, not wins and losses? Right?
Correct.
Even when it comes to the highs and lows, we're dealing with so many highs and lows in the world right now. How can we navigate and not identify with the highs or the lows? Maybe that's the challenge. It isn't about
Mm,
like, do we get swung over here or do we get swung over here? Because that's what's causing people so much anxiety is the crazy swings.
yeah.
What if it's not about identifying with the swings? It's identifying with the middle. Like, you know what I kept thinking about? We used to play this. Or it just came to mind. We used to play this game on the playground in elementary school, and you get a
Hmm.
swing set, and like three people or two people would run the swings like this, like opposite. So
Okay.
and the whole thing was to run through all the swings,
Okay.
like
Yeah.
as they're
Yeah.
going like this. You wait for them to all go out, and then that's when you run. And
Correct.
that's what it reminds me of. It's like,
Mm,
maybe we're being given the opportunity to learn how to run the middle. That it
mm.
isn't about identifying with the highs and lows. It's not about the story. And if we give too much into the story, we get swung over here because the story takes us. Again, it's the freedom of choosing to run in the middle. To focus on what would equanimity mean to me.
Mm.
What does neutral mean for me? If I have these high highs and low lows,
Woo.
how do I navigate that neutrally? What does that mean to me? Right? And what do I
Yeah.
notice as I attempt to shift into more of a neutral place of being? Because that's allowance,
Mm,
really. Allowance is a state of neutrality.
mm, mm. Tracy, there are too many dimensions to neutrality.
Sorry.
There are too many dimensions because what I'm thinking about here is I've it's about being so intentional uh, that I've sat down, I've done exercises where I imagine someone slapping me and cussing me and spitting on me, and I don't react
Mm,
because I want to stay in the middle. But then I haven't exercised the times where I'm trying to get somewhere and someone cuts in front of me. They see me coming, they cut in front of me, and I haven't exercised the slow down and let it go. I speed up and say, here's what may have happened if I was stupid. I come closing and then I slow down.
mm,
I haven't exercised the, you said manipulation of energy. Anything that has manipulation inside, I think is wrong. Anything that has manipulation. Influencing is different, right? When you influence, you're given but manipulation, you're hiding something and you're not giving the full picture, giving half the picture so that someone says, oh really? Okay. So
So can
when
I
we
say
are
something really quickly about that? Because I love those distinctions in words.
Go
But I
ahead.
think a lot of times people say, no, I'm trying to influence this. If you are trying, then you're manipulating.
There you go.
Influence comes when you're not even really thinking about it. You're doing you're running the middle, and that is
Yes.
naturally influencing people, but you're not focused on influencing them. You're focused on being you and being the person you want to be. So thank you.
Perfect. 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 So when you find when you when you're manipulating even yourself, you're running witchcraft. I would say that because that's you are pretty much fooling yourself. And when you said it, Justin, don't manipulate your energy to the way you want it to be. Manipulation takes energy, and then the next thing was be efficient, and that's my big word. I love
No.
efficiency. I love efficiency. Don't walk from here to there with one thing in your hand when you have to take four, and you can make a way to take four and just do it one time, right?
Unless you're
So
trying to get exercise, in which
I
case,
know, right?
all right.
But being efficient with it and not trying to manipulate it, it's cognizance on an atomic level that everything that you do, you have to you it's scary. When I say it's scary, and this is what most people will say.
Mm,
So in Christendom, right? So I'm in spirituality. I go, what do you think about the Ten Commandments?
mm.
Don't steal. Don't covet the next man's wife. Uh, don't lie. Love thy neighbor as yourself. Love your Lord your God. Da, da, da. And I say to myself, "Ugh, there's a whole lot of stuff to remember." But then there's the easy way, and I'm going to ask you this question. There's the easy way of being led by the Holy Spirit, because the Holy Spirit leads you in all things and all good things per se. That if I'm attempting to do something, the Holy Spirit says your conscience comes and hey, don't do. Okay, good. So I'm not thinking on the 10 Commandments check mark as if the Pharisees would do. Check mark it, check mark it. How would you in the concept of staying in the middle, how would you answer this? What is your Holy Spirit, your holy grail?
Oh, you just froze, so I didn't get the question.
That's
What is
oh
your holy
really?
grail? Is the last thing I
What?
heard.
Okay.
I'm like,
It's
ooh,
just
he's giving me extra lead time to think about it, but I don't know what I'm thinking about. I guess
so
it's to respond according to what I'm feeling right now, not what you asked.
so no so what I was saying was where I don't think about the 10 Commandments anymore. I think on the Holy Spirit guidance, in staying in the middle for someone who may not be spiritual per se, right?
Mhm.
Someone who's I want to stay in the middle, Tracy. I really don't want to have the pendulum going the highs and the lows. What's your holy grail in saying, okay, here are things that you can do, things that you should do in order to stay in the middle?
Hmm. That's a great question. Well, and that's why I love human design, right? This
Mm,
is not a plug for human design, but as a tool, I really love it because I can see how the person is designed, right?
mm,
To be
mm,
essentially how they're designed to be
mm,
in the world. And so based on that, if that person was, having that question, even if I didn't know them, right? If I didn't know what their design was,
mm-hmm,
we have four main intelligences that we run off of, right? And we all have a predominant one. So you
mm,
got head, heart, gut, and intuition, which is more the spiritual, the
mm-hmm.
kind of the open to God's guidance.
Correct.
And so if people say I'm not spiritual or I'm not religious, I'll say, well, do you believe in intuition? Do you believe there is a thing called intuition? Right.
Mm,
And so we just kind of create a baseline, but it's what are you either thinking, feeling, ideally not thinking because thinking has a lot of conditioning to it,
mm,
but what are you feeling, sensing, and intuiting right now? And where, again, sensing is a body thing. We'll feel, our stomach will ball up, or we'll get, tense head, kind of pressure in our heads, or there'll be some, or our the hair will stand up on our arms or the back of our necks, or something
mm-hmm,
physical that's data, right? That's an example of instinctive information.
mm-hmm,
But it's asking people to get more aware of other data points that they're collecting.
mm,
And so if they're not looking to say, okay, God, what, like, sorry about the background noise, God, what are you saying to me? Or, they're opening themselves up to that. It's what can you start to recognize within yourself or even around you, cues and clues? You've seen patterns in what people are saying to you or how they're treating you, or, like I have people start to pay attention to things that they are normally not paying attention to, and allowing themselves to, like, and what does that mean to you? Because it
Mm-hmm.
really only has the meaning you give it. So what are you picking up? What are you observing? Let's call it that. And what
Yeah.
does it mean to you? And are there any through lines? Because that's how we're communicated to, right? So if we're in that space of observation, it tends to be more neutral than we're in the space of action. That's why they say listening is such an art, right? It's easy to
Mm-hmm.
talk or it's easy to express. Well, depends on the person, but in general, we can express ourselves, but it's not always, especially when there's challenge or whatever, to just kind of sit and take it, right? To listen, to observe, to
Yeah.
let it in, right? Not to be a doormat to it,
Mm-hmm.
but to
Mm-hmm.
allow ourselves to
I
receive
like
that
that.
data,
Not
to
a
receive
doormat.
that information, and then ask, what does this mean to me?
Mm-hmm.
Right? So if you're a person that doesn't, look exterior to God or spirit or, anything like that for guidance, use your own inner gadgetry, use your own guidance, because I mean, we all have the different meanings we give to this experience.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what I say to people who are more like, like, hey, I'm not really, I'm not coming from the same place you are.
Nah,
That's
yeah.
cool. Okay, we can work. I mean, we're human first. The meaning we give things, what we subscribe to, what we believe, what we don't believe, that's all different. But we have we have things in common. So like, how do we access those things for ourselves based on, what we do believe, based on how we do act, all that kind of stuff. So
Mm-hmm.
that's what I would say is, pay attention, because I think a lot of times people just unconscious, again, most of our thoughts, as they say, are unconscious. So most of the time we're operating under unconscious, you know, conditions.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and to observe is to allow ourselves to become more conscious about those unconscious things that are driving us.
Yeah. You say this, and I woke up this morning and Ferlin said a couple things, and I said, no, she said, I know I sprung this up on you. Just think about it. And I went, while brushing my teeth, I thought about it and I said, hmm, I could respond this way, which would be a real uh, Jack Derrier way, right? A Jack Donkey way. I could respond this other way, but then I took all the juvenile pieces out,
Mm,
and you know what came next was, why did she state what she stated? Let me
mm,
understand. And I started to reverse engineer it, and I came to the point that she's uncomfortable. She's skittish about next steps. That's why she's asking these questions. So when
mm,
I'm answering these, I have to go with, sweetheart, it's a natural concern when you're doing about to do something big. It's your faith has been tested in a way that you haven't been tested before. So
mm.
and that's me being conscious. That's me collecting the data points, and really being mature and not having the gift of gab to go and run my mouth and cause even more problems. But
I love that. Well, that's the win loss thing a lot of times too. Like if we think about, God, I wish I would have said this when that person did that. Like,
yes,
it's that I wish I would have won because I feel like they won. And
Ooh,
if we even have that mentality, we've given our power away. Like if we're thinking
ooh.
that person won over us because we couldn't remember that snappy comeback, we're choosing to give a storyline to the situation where we give our power away. And next time I'm going to have that snappy line ready so I can win. I mean, when people go on and on about winning, I love to ask their interpretation of winning,
Mm,
because winning isn't necessarily bad. It's like success. It just depends on your interpretation. Is
mm.
winning? Do you focus a lot on winning and losing? Like is it the polar piece that you're focusing on?
Yeah.
When I'm a winner, I'm not a loser, or I deserve to win and that person doesn't. Like, because that
Wow.
right there is giving your power away.
Mm,
Winning and success can be fulfilled. Like when I ask people, what's your definition of success? Like feeling fulfilled and feeling purposeful. I'm
mm,
like, well, I'm all about success, right? If it's
mm.
showing someone up and being better than them, how's that working for you?
And on that note, Traci Phillips and Wulwyn Portiera, EP11 is a wrap. Thank you so much for coming and spending time with us. We appreciate you. Traci, you take care.
Well, and thank you. You too. We'll see you soon.